Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to The Good Tree, the place inspired by the verse in the Quran of a good word that is like a good tree, whose roots are firm and branches reach great heights. You are joined by your host, myself Fizza and Noor.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This series is all about how we can perfect our morals in all of our relationships. In today's episode, we will be discussing the relationship with our parents.
We are delighted to be joined today with Ayatullah Sayyid Fadhil Milani. Educated in the Najaf Seminary of the late Ayatullah Al-Hakim and Ayatollah Khoei, Professor Milani is a graduate of the universities of Beirut, Baghdad and Oxford. With over 50 years of experience in teaching Islamic studies, particularly Islamic law and jurisprudence and Islamic theology, he is appointed as a professor by the University of Amman. Professor Milani is the Dean of the International University of Islamic Studies and the Head of Islamic Law and Jurisprudence at the Islamic College of Advanced Studies in London, and he is also the Imam at the Imam Khoei Islamic Center. Sayyid Milani, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to The Good Tree.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
If there is one relationship that is given the utmost importance after our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal, then it is our relationship with our parents. For Allah Azza wa Jal says in chapter 17, verse 23 of the Holy Quran, "And your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him, and that you be dutiful to your parents. If one of them or both of them attain old age in your life, say not to them a word of disrespect, nor shout at them, but address them in terms of honor." So Sayyidina, we would like to explore this in more detail by firstly asking, could you explain to us what is our Islamic legal obligation towards our parents?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala khayri khalqi Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. As you explained in the Surah 17, ayah 23-24, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately after advising us not to associate anyone, anything with Him in worship or even communication spiritually, immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that you must treat your parents well. Although the translation you refer to it is to be beautiful, no, the correct or the most appropriate translation for that is, and here we leave it because always translating something from the Arabic, especially with great, eloquent in Arabic literacy. This is something very, very important to say. Sometimes to be too beautiful doesn't express the whole idea, doesn't convey the same message. No, to treat them well. And here we see that many things are mentioned here. First of all, treat them well. Second, that do not act in an unrespectable way, which means that no slightest sign of disrespect or even some sort of, which indicates that you are not polite with them. You are not treating them well, okay? Then, the more important thing is the word of. Here again, we have to concentrate on something very important, and that is sometimes we read the literal meaning of the word in Arabic, sometimes the metaphorical. And here of is the metaphorical expression, which means that don't show any sign of, some sort of disagreement, or you say, I fed up. For example, a very, very simple example, that at night your mother wakes you up, oh, go and fetch me some water. So you go and fetch her some water and she is satisfied. After half an hour or an hour again, she said that, oh, Fizza, go and give me some water. So if this has been repeated, those who do not stick to these guidelines say, oh, how many times, mother, take this bottle, put it near yourself. Don't call me every time. I am. So this is the metaphorical expression of أف ولا تقل لهما أف. Okay? Don't say I fed up. Even they ask you for the 10th time about the same thing, you do not feel uneasy about it. Not even avoiding utter it. No, even inside you. And that is something very, very important. Then it comes to one very important thing, that lower the wings of humility to them out of mercy. This, again, it's a metaphorical expression in the Quran, lowering the wings of humility, which means that you feel insignificant, you feel nothing. You are really indebted to them in your existence, all right? So they did everything for your survival, for your continuation of life. So, in other words, you must treat them well, in a sense that إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما. Of course, they are the old age, and normally people of old age are not energetic as the young people. Okay, and for example, they still you remain loyal to them, treat them well, and feel humble towards them. And the last one is كما ربياني صغيرا. And here is how two-side journey, that as they did everything to upbring you, to educate you, to discipline you, to provide everything for you, you in return, you cannot. And in one occasion, somebody came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam and said that my mother is old and I carried her on my shoulder during the tawaf, and I did that with full pleasure. But did I return the favor? Did I compensate my mother for what she did? And the Imam said that not even for remaining sleepless of one night. So this shows that we cannot pay back, we cannot compensate, we cannot pay our debt to our parents, especially the mother, whatever you do. So these are the main guidelines. Of course, later on we will see the guidelines from Imam Zain al-Abidin in As-Sahifa Sajjadiyya, supplication number 24, inshallah, when we are going further.
Thank you, Sayyidina. That was so beautiful and so humbling. I mean, the fact that no matter what we try to do, we can never pay our parents back is extremely powerful. And I don't think we realize that. I think we forget. We sometimes, like you say, we stick to the wording. Okay, I didn't say off to my parents, but maybe I showed them that I was annoyed, or maybe I was very...
Any sign of annoyance or fed up or uncomfortable. I mean, all these are included in the word off.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I think it's very important for us to all take that on board. And really, the way we treat our parents should be a constant battle against our soul and against our nafs that tries to tell us, oh, look, they're, especially like you said, when they get old, maybe they're not as energetic. But really, no matter what, we have to always be treating them with the utmost respect and with love, outpouring of love. There's something you mentioned that I want to address, and you said especially our mother. And we know there's this famous hadith where someone comes to the Prophet and asks him, who do I, respect? I believe
and treat well.
And treat well after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they say, your mother, he says, your mother, your mother, your mother, and then your father. So then my question is, according to this hadith, is there a fiqhi distinction between how we treat our parents, between our mother and our father, or is this more of an akhlaqi distinction? And if you could give us a bit more about that.
It is a very good question, Noor, but there is a fact here before religious advice and akhlaqi and moral values. That is, in your coming to existence, in you getting the being, your father's share is only a minute or few seconds, few minutes, with pleasure, yeah, copulating, and that is only for few minutes. But the role of the mother, 42 weeks of pregnancy, and accepting all the stress and holding all these problems, whatever, difficulty is there, you know better about the hardship that the mother bears from the beginning of the nutfa until giving the birth, and the same time after the birth until looking after the little child, and sometimes special care you need for the. So here, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ indicates the fact that although both of them to be respected, both of them, they are entitled to maximum of love and respect and some sort of humbleness towards them. Yeah, but the role of mother, because she suffered more, she tolerated and sacrificed her own happiness for the kid, for the sake of the child. But when we move from this stage to other things, according to the religious guidelines, you have equal duty to your parents. And the ayah which you recited, or Fiza recited, says that إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكُمْ كِبَرُ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. So they are equal in there. Yeah. But akhlaqi, it is normally the girl who should offer more love and closeness to mother, and the son to be closer to father. So this is some sort of, let's say, culture or some sort of natural communication between the males and the females. Yeah, but this doesn't mean that you akhlaqi, you forget. Let me tell you about one story which is nice to mention here. Long time ago, I think 35 years ago, it was that a gentleman came to me, or a young person came to me and said, I can't concentrate in my prayers. When I start, I tell myself, I focus, because this khushu', this communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the prayer is so important. But I can't control. The moment I start my salah, my mind goes miles away. When I finish, I find Assalamu alaikum. I didn't even get any spirit or fruits of my or the taste of my salat. What shall I do? In reality, I can't say that I am expert in these matters, but it came to my mind to suggest something, and said to him that, is your mother alive? He said, yes. I said, next time when you want to pray, go and kiss the hands of your mother. Treat her. Then come to prayer. And when you do that, I'm sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you some sort of ability to concentrate and focus. After a week, he came, said that it was a miracle. How? It changed my life. So here you can see that it is not akhlaqi only, it is educational. It is something to give you spiritual value, to enhance your ethical understanding, that when you are good to your mother, and before every time salah, you do something that you please her. And I personally had that opportunity, alhamdulillah, that many ways of my success in my life was due to respecting, loving, and serving my mother.
That is so beautiful, and I think it's life-changing. I mean, to see that in 1 week, he felt the difference. Imagine if you spend your life serving your mother and your father. Thank you so much for that, Sayyidina. Now, you know, when we talk about the upbringing of children, we normally refer to the 7 years. So 7 years play with them, 7 years teach them, 7 years befriend them. So we were wondering, is there a same kind of categorization to how you treat your parents through their age, so as they grow up? So obviously our parents go through different stages of life, even our mothers, they'll go through menopause, and there's different stages of life where they will behave differently maybe, and they will go through different struggles. So should we be aware of that in the way we're treating our parents? Does that change?
Let us admit something, that when different environment, different cultures, different ages require different approach. So when we come to akhlaq, when we come to social behavior, when we come to the social behavior, in a sense that certain things are not fixed in Islam. I mean, they are a relative issue, which means that, for example, something which is considered in some cultures as a sign of respect, in some other cultures doesn't mean anything, all right? But with regard to that, we see this dividing into 3 sevens is, again, in two-way system. The one which you mentioned, that for the first 7 years, you play with the child. We try to create some sort of love and some sort of, even he thinks that, oh, you are equal. I mean, both. Sometimes even we have in some hadith that even you make yourself childish, you act in a childish way as if the child himself. I do that with my some grandchildren, yeah? So I play with them sometimes, yeah, when I meet them, and try to make some sort of, attitude which they think that, oh, it is part of that, and I'm sharing the same with them. So I am the same age with them. I don't feel some sort of superiority or some, better situation than them. So this is something very, very important for 7 years. Then for us, you try to educate them, discipline them, and try to show them the principles of life and how to deal with ups and downs, with problems and things like that, okay? But later on, this will be some sort of cooperating and assistance between father and son, or between mother and daughter, all right? So it is not dominating, rather some sort of consulting and some sort of sharing the opinions. This is one side of the story. The other side of the story is in the hadith, that the Imam alayhi salam says that a child is a master for 7 years, a servant for 7 years, and a minister for the next 7 years. So both ways, that how you do them, or how they are to you. So the first 7 years, the child is a master, means that he doesn't have any logical analysis. When they want something, they insist. And we've seen, everybody has seen that when the child needs something and they cry and they do it, whatever. I mean, when they want ice cream, they say, ice cream. So they scream for the ice cream, all right? Although it is not good for them for whatever reason, all right? For diabetes or anything like that, all right? But they insist because they do not have this ability to analyze things logically, all right? So he is a master, he or she, yeah, is a master. But after from 7 to 14, which means that to offer help, assistance, and just to follow exactly what the parents say, so they are servants. But when they are grown up 14 onwards, yeah, they are able to share with you the whatever positive and negative things and advices which are helping people to go further. So it is something to tell us, of course, how to treat parents to treat their children, and the children how to treat their parents, the children to parents, yeah.
Ahsantum. Thank you so much. And then how long does this serving of our parents last? And does it go beyond marriage? And even like in our adolescent years, sometimes, we might be moody, we might be going through difficulties. So how long does this service to our parents go on for?
Okay, I have two answers to that. The first answer is for how long you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Oh, that's
the ayah says they are combined. The ayah says that وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So is there a limit for that? That, for example, when I get 40 or 45, I stop worshiping Allah or allowed to associate anyone in worship with Him? No. According to the ayah, which is in Surah 17, ayah 23, 24, it is non-stop. It is not limited to time, all right? But the second answer, I'm going to recite from As-Sahifa As-Sajjadiyya, which is translated by Professor Chetik, and the supplication number 24 of Sahifa As-Sajjadiyya. And let me read from that, and that is very, very important to answer your question, all right? Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, in supplication number 24 of Sahifa As-Sajjadiyya, the Psalms of Islam, says that, I'm quoting only 2 paragraphs, make my obedience and devotion to them more gladdening to my eyes than sleep to the drowsy, and more refreshing to my breast than drink to the thirsty, so that I may prefer their inclinations to mine and set their satisfaction before my satisfaction. Make much of their devotion to me, though it be little, and make little of my devotion to them, though it be great. So when Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, a ma'soom, error-free Imam, the one who is the role model for us, he asked Allah, supplicates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this way, that how we treat our parents. Then in the next paragraph, he said that, O Allah, lower before them my voice, make agreeable to them my words, make mild before them my temper. And this is very important. I mean, my temper, make tender toward them my heart, and turn me into their companion, their loving friend. And it goes on really in supplication number 24. I think for our youth, Sister Noor and Sister Fizza, for our youth, these are very important, that we have this treasure of wisdom, education in the teachings of our Imams alayhi salam, in Nahj al-Balagh of Imam Ali alayhi salam, in the speech of Lady Fatima alayhi salam, in the supplications of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, really in every single word. I wonder why our youth, our children, know about some artists and some celebrities more than they know about our Imams and their teachings. It is really sad to see that many are heedless about that. And they ask, we can't read Arabic. It is in English. Alhamdulillah, nowadays we have, for example, the speech of Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, and the higher objection of the legislation in her speech. You can find it in English. The supplications of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam in Nahj al-Balagh, so all are in English. So this is not good excuse. And sometimes the youngsters are lazy, and I'm sorry to call them that way, that they want the religious leaders to come and knock at their door and beg them, please come to. Although we do that, we are doing that freely if I am part of so-called religious leaders, But it is how you seek knowledge for physics, chemistry, and nowadays the technology, the IT, and all these things. Every new method, you learn it immediately, yeah? But you spare some time for learning from our imams, and you see the spirit, the depth, the reality in all these teachings. So my first answer to your question, Noor, was that there is no limit because it is combined with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And second, let's learn from Imam Zayn al-Abidin al-Islam that this is not limited to a particular age. So even when you are 45, 50, don't think that now I'm grown up, I'm not going to listen to whatever my father or my mother says. I'm strange to see sometimes children now, I'm sorry to see that, have their iPhone, and whilst are sitting next to mother, sometimes they sit for half an hour, 2 hours. They even don't smile and don't even hear what the mother says. They are busy with what? The keyboard and what this is really shameful.
You've made us a bit speechless and you've reduced us to tears. Just hearing those words of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, it makes your soul tremble. It really is a treasure that we all need to pick up and read again and again and again, because
Sure.
Even though we've heard it before, every time you look at it or hear it or read it, it hits differently. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Sayyidina. I have to say that dua number 24 is my personal favorite for many reasons. I just wanted to ask, do we have any obligation towards our parents after they have passed away? And if so, what does it look like?
Yes. First of all, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that when the person moves from this temporary life to the eternal, when they die, the file for their actions, for their deeds will be closed except for 3 chapters or 3 things. One of them, وَلَدٌ صَالِحٌ يَسْتَغْفِرُ لَهُ, which means that something continues, even they are in the grave, even they are stopping doing good deeds. But if one of these 3, we are now concentrating on one, yeah? One of all these 3 is still there, the close or the accounts are still open. So, which means that if you have, for example, the bank account, okay, so it is not closed, it's continuously, there is something flowing continuously as good deeds there. When you have a child, boy or girl, who does something to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the reward for that goes to the deceased parents. So, yastaghfir lahu, seeking forgiveness. So, it is in the qunut for your salah, اللهم اغفر لوالدي اغفر لوالدي كما ربياني صغيرا. Okay, اجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا وبالسيئات غفرانا. So, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive my parents as they did everything to educate me, to bring me up, to feed me, to do everything in my favor. Yeah, and اجزهما بالإحسان إحسانا, reward them for whatever good. It is something that I love a lot, Sister Rizza. When people ask me for assistance or istikhara or consultants or something like that, yeah, when I do that, they in return, they say, Rahimallah walidayk. So I do something good. People are pleased and they pray for my parents. So if my actions, my attitude, if I forgive, for example, something wrong, if I help and assist, and people in return, when they feel happy about my assistance, say, oh, may Allah forgive your parents, reward them for what you did. So it is again, the file is not closed. So this is our duties, to behave well, to be good people in the community, to assist others, to care for others, And this will lead opposite to that. God forbid. If someone is nasty, is harmful, is self-centered, is selfish, and not ready to do anything good to others, yeah? So people say, so what parents he or she had that you can't expect any goodness from them for this person, all right? So in acting in the right manner, doing good deeds, and offering whatever we can from assistance to others, here we guarantee something very important, that the reflection of those good deeds go to our parents. This is one thing. The other thing, of course, if you feed someone, if you, for example, support an orphan, and your intention is for that to send the thawab of that, the reward for that to their parents. Again, these are acts we can do. Of course, there are some of them, not all. Yeah.
Thank you. So it means whatever good we do, we can dedicate it to our parents.
Sure.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to change the conversation a little bit towards, sometimes what happens is we can have miscommunications or misunderstandings with our parents, usually due to generational differences. So I was just wondering, how can we maintain good communication with our parents who have grown up in a different generation or maybe a different culture?
Imam Ali alayhi salam answers that question. First, addresses the parents. We say that don't enforce your culture on your children because they are created for an age and era different from your age and era. So when Imam Ali alayhi salam tells us or addresses the parents, so this means, of course, I'm not going to say that this is the responsibility and the important thing that parents should know about it. But these are the guidelines, yes. When Imam Ali alayhi salam says that open your eyes, don't think that what you were used to or the method that you are grown up or the culture you have is necessarily good for all times. It can change and vary from time to time, from circumstances to circumstances. So, فَإِنَّهُمْ خُلِقُوا لِزَمَانٍ غَيْرِ زَمَانِكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them for a different age, different environment, different era, okay? So that is a guideline for the parents. This is one thing. The second point is that really sometimes the parents are not in mood. Sometimes we see that by nature they are angry. So they can't speak. So it is reality. Yes, it is reality. Sometimes a father or mother is harsh and very tough in addressing the children. Sometimes even abusing them, using a very bad language and things like that. All right. So here the problem, the question I think is about this, that in both, sometimes the way that they don't consider the differences, and the other thing is that sometimes they are moody. Sometimes some of them, or there is an occasion that someone cannot lower their voice and always shouts. Okay, so what shall I do when my father shouts? All right, or my mother? The answer really is that, again, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, that supplication number 24, says that if any things which I thought that they exceeded, they exceeded their limits. So again, oh Allah, pardon them. And I really pardon them, and I release them from any accountability or any blame-worthy thing that was there. So this is akhlaq, this is adab. And when, for example, Jesus says that if one slaps you on the right cheek, I mean, offer the left cheek, it can, this metaphorically, or this expression can be used that, okay, when the father or the mother, slaps you on the cheek or something like that, don't, react in unacceptable way. Even be ready to receive the second one. This is only to show how ready are you to do whatever suitable at that time. There are 3 facts we have to remember all the time. 1, imagine the other story. Always this phrase or this parable of put yourselves in the shoes of others. Imagine that now you are a father or you are a mother and you are in old age. And for example, you got angry with your son or your daughter. Do you expect them to react in the similar way, or do you expect them to be mild and forget this for you? All right? So always remember that, put yourself in the place and in the shoes of the parents. How do you expect them to, or the children to react to you? This is one thing. The second thing about the difference of culture. When we talk about different culture, some people mistakenly understand it about some sort of profession or education or qualification. Oh, I am a doctor. I spend a lot of years. I'm a specialist. I'm attending the postdoc in that subject. And now my mother is ignorant. She doesn't know anything. Now she wants to force me. She wants to tell me what to do. No, I know better. So this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable because you are educated and they have less degree of qualification or education. Please, this is advice to all. Forget about that. Don't consider that a matter of privilege or some sort of superiority at all. And the third point is for the marital issues. Let's say that you are between, as for example, a female, between how to please your husband or you please your mother, or a son. And here really one of the marital problems and sometimes social problems. I am involved in people refer to me from different cultures, but different backgrounds of that. You know that, for example, a boy was married to a girl and they remained in the same house of their mother. The father, for example, is dead. And in here, the son is stuck whether to please his wife or his mother. This is the real question and the real problem. Yeah. So shall I say that my duty to my wife is more important? And if I sometimes ignore the rights of my mother or try to make balance, here is always the believer, the well-educated person and well-disciplined person is always to make a balance. Okay? Not fall in, not to fall in complete, way of satisfying the wife and ignoring the mother, and not completely say, whatever my mother says, that is right. And you have to keep silent, to shut up. Don't say, no, this is not correct. All right. So let's conclude that about this way, difference in culture, difference of attitude, different in education, even different in how I divided between this and that, between my mother and my, for example, husband. These are always problems. But when you try to make balance and understand that, don't ignore one for the sake of other. That is the best thing to do.
Thank you so much for that, Sayyidina. I just want to ask a bit about this abuse that you mentioned. I know, unfortunately, there are some cases where parents are abusive, and I think we just need to maybe mention it quickly. If the parents are being abusive to their to their children, or mistreating their children, is there such thing as maintaining a healthy distance in Islam? I know it's a very touchy subject and it probably depends on a lot of different factors, but what are your thoughts?
When I want to cure something, doesn't mean that I return the evil by evil. This means that I try to, some way, keep away from the clash of interests and the way which worsen the situation. So here is one very important rule. That is it a duty to obey ita'ah, obey the parents in everything, even they abuse you, or when it reaches that, for example, stage, you don't cause them some sort of annoyance, all right, which means that don't call any hurt or harm to them or to their feeling, but you try to escape from it. For example, when the father is abusing and shouting and say that, shut up, you are not allowed to discuss this anymore. I said, okay, full stop. I don't do it in front of him. So he says to me, don't talk to your uncles. I am not happy about that. How many times I tell you, don't talk to your cousins? But Sharia tells me that I have to keep the bonds with the kin. And that is something Silatul Rahim. So shall I say that, no, father, you are not right? Or not? Say, okay, I keep silent, but without his knowledge, I do my whatever, duty or obligation in treating my uncle or my cousins and things like that. So here needs some sort of clever approach and do not cause something that they feel hurt, but doesn't mean that you have to obey them. Why? Because obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rulings of Sharia in, for example, Salat al-Rahim, in respecting others, to appreciating the goodness, or don't go to visit your aunt. Okay, so if something like that happens, I keep silent, I don't say anything, don't argue about it, but I do it secretly or even without his knowledge. In this way means, but sometimes there are boys, they spend hours and hours at night, with the computer, and so the father wants them to go to sleep without causing disturbance, or at least to be able to wake up for Salat al-Fajr, Salat al-Subh. If you continue until 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, how can you wake up for Salat? All right. So these are something to be considered separately and not a general case for them. But as I said, to consider sticking to the rulings of Sharia and obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking over and is more important. But don't throw it in the face. Rather, don't cause them any harm. You try to do it on your own way.
Thank you so much for that. I think it's a very important clarification.
Yeah.
Continuing on from there, maybe the environment's not necessarily abusive, but it could be a toxic environment. So maybe mentally stressful. Is it okay, especially for, let's say, an independent lady, to move away from her family?
Is it a sin to disobey the parents or just ignore what they say, or there is a limit for that? The guardianship stops when the boy or the girl become adult or mature. For example, we read in the books of fiqh that when a girl is mature and finds someone and thinks that someone is the right person to marry her, and she marry him, but the parents say, no, we don't allow that. So if it is not reasonable or not justified in a logical way, so it is not a must to obey them, especially when the girl is grown up and is independent in how to run her life. So these means, the rulings of Sharia about this mean that if there is some sort of harsh approach from the parents, not logical and abusive way, is it still to obey them? No, we don't have such a thing. As long as you are mature, you are independent in your decisions to run life. Normally, for example, age of 25, 24, something like that is normally, if they are well disciplined and well educated and know about matters of life, so they know better how to run their lives. And it is not a must to literally listen to what the parents say.
Does that mean if, let's say, a young man or a young woman is not looking at getting married, but they wanted to move out, is that allowed?
Of course it is. If this knows cause them harm, the parents, which means that it is not completely isolating themselves and disconnecting themselves. No, they move out if they are able to maintain themselves and behave in a way that is religiously acceptable. Yeah, this is okay. But this means that they don't cut off their visit or their treatment or their, for example, respect to parents. Of course, it is all right.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying. And there was just another question on the role of a carer. So let's say your parents are ill or they're elderly, and you have taken on the responsibility as the carer. What advice would you have for a young man or woman who finds themselves in that situation? How did they prioritize their life? Is there anything from an Islamic perspective, like let's say they're putting off getting married or finding a job or anything like that? Do we have any advice?
Yes. If they can afford to employ a carer, even 4 hours, not the whole 24 hours, yeah. If they can afford, if a son can afford to bring someone to care for his mother, yeah, whilst he's going for his duties, his work, his studies, okay, his whatever business, that is the better thing. If they cannot, of course, this means that the priority, if after they have, for example, employment or they have a contract, they have to abide by that contract and by the requirement, or they can't cancel, they can't postpone their duty, go to the office late because they want to care for their mother. So it must be done in a way that doesn't affect their employment, their business, their whatever, duties they have. So that is either directly or by employing someone else to do it.
Ahsantum, thank you so much, Sayed. And before we end, we just wanted to ask if you have any final practical tips for us on how to maintain a good relationship with our parents, whether they're alive or if they've passed on.
Yes, really to always think of the parents. And if it is to think that which one is more important for me, to go to sleep or to enjoy myself, going seeing my friends, or really my mother or my father are in need. It makes a lot of difference if I go and, for example, even for a short time, even for a little, and they normally appreciate that. They appreciate that. They know that you are busy, you want to do that. So this means that always helping other members of the community, especially the parents, and looking after the needs of others. Putting the needs of others prior to your own need, and that is إيثار. ويؤثرون على أنفسهم ولو كان بهم خصاصة. Really, this is a very spiritual value which all of us, we can learn from it, and we get the maximum benefit of that. when we think of others, when we ignore and forget our own rights in order to make others happy and satisfied. And here, I'll let you know about one of the maxims and short sayings of Imam Ali alayhi salam, who advises Khoei ibn Ziyad al-Nakha'i. I think all of you know about the Dua Khoei that is recited every Thursday night, all right? That he quoted, he memorized that from Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he quoted us. And now, for after 14 centuries, still, we see that every Shia gathering, Thursday night, they either individually or in congregation, they recited, all right? Khoei was one of the very close companions to Imam Ali alayhi salam. So Imam Ali addresses him in this way. You find it towards the end of Nahj al-Balagha, in the maxims or short sayings. Ya Khoei, مر أهلك يروح في طلب المكارم ويدلج في حاجة من هو نائم فوالذي وسع سمعه الأصوات ما من أحد أودع قلبا سرورا إلا وخلق الله له من ذلك السرور لطفا فإذا نزلت به نائبة أسرع إليها كالماء في انحداره حتى يطردها عنه كما تطرد غريبة الإبل. I'll translate for you. O Khoei, tell your children, your family, يروحوا في طلب المكارم. They strive and work hard to get the merits, the good deeds. ويدلجوا في حاجة من هو نائم. They let them go to help others and knock at the doors of those who are asleep, not waiting for the needy to come to them. ويدلجوا في حاجة من هو نائم. Some people wait to say, I'm waiting for people to come to us. Why didn't you ask me? No. It is better. This is the advice. And you asked me for such a thing, yeah? That practical thing, that let us think of others before they ask us if we can assist them. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that by the one whose ears are able to pick up every voice and can hear and receive all voices, there is no particular person that creates some sort of happiness and some sort of pleasure in the hearts of others, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will recompense that by when you are in difficulty, a grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes speedy to you, to rescue you, to give you assistance until you feel happy about it. So in order to run a happy life, in order to get the sweetness of whatever in this life, we are advised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by Imam Ali alayhi salam, to think of others. And of course, others, when we talk about them, parents are the first of the list. All right. So be always happy to think of parents, to put their needs. Okay. If I'm going for shopping and see something nice, something good, and I think that whether I take this garment or this cover or this whatever for myself or for my mother, the moment you think, oh, if I take it to my mother, she will be pleased. Yeah, that of course is something good. And let's pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to meet all these requirements or guidelines, inshallah.
Ahsantum, jazakallah khair. Inshallah, Allah gives us the tawfiq to seek pleasing our parents in our life and to fulfill at least some of our responsibility towards them. Thank you so much, Sayyid Milani. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of today's episode, and we'd like to thank you so much for giving us from your time and making time for us to discuss this topic with us. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Barakallah feekum.
Shukran.
And we want to thank you all for tuning in. Feel free to leave us a comment on our social media handles, and to find out more, please visit our website, thegoodtree.faith.
Till next week, fi amanillah.
Join us next week as we discuss our relationship with technology with Sheikh Salim Yusuf Ali.